In February of 2015, Romanian politician Elena Udrea, aged 41, was arrested by the country's National Anti-Corruption Directorate, DNA, as part of an investigation into multiple instances of abusing her power, including money laundering, bribery, illegal campaign funding, and false declaration of assets. Udrea had risen to various prominent positions as a close ally of former Romanian President Traian Băsescu. Aside from leadership roles in various political parties, she was interim Environment Minister and Tourism Minister. Udrea was regarded in Romanian media as one of the country's most glamorous politicians, but her public image gradually deteriorated as more of her dubious dealings came to light. In 2014, months before she was arrested, Udrea and Alina Bișca, the chief prosecutor of the Romanian Directorate for Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism, were photographed during a Paris shopping spree. It was reportedly funded by ill-gotten gains. Following the DNA's investigation, Udrea was accused of accepting bribes from private firms in exchange for guarantees that they would be paid promptly for public projects, and was also one of several Romanian politicians connected to the Microsoft licensing corruption scandal. It was one of the biggest corruption cases in recent Romanian history, in which Udrea and a dozen other politicians were accused of accepting over $50 million in bribes for approving increases in license fees for Microsoft products. In spite of the many allegations against her, the case that sealed her fate was that of misappropriating the equivalent of over $1.5 million for organizing a 2011 gala honoring Romanian boxing champion Lucian But. Udrea was suspected of pocketing a small fortune, appeared in public that year in a Dolce & Gabbana dress estimated at nearly $20,000. For the But case, she was convicted of bribery and abuses of power in the spring of 2017. She adamantly denied any wrongdoing and appealed the decision, but then fled to Costa Rica, where she sought asylum. Bișca joined the disgraced politician in her flight from justice and also sought refuge in the Central American country. Udrea was eventually returned to Romania after she became wanted by Interpol, and after another failed attempt at fleeing the country through Bulgaria, was arrested and began serving her sentence in the summer of 2022. Number 6. Eva Kaili. After a career as a TV presenter, Eva Kaili turned her eye to politics, becoming a member of the Greek Parliament and then a vice president of the European Parliament. Kaili relocated to Brussels, Belgium, where she joined the Socialists and Democrats group. Her political activity was paralleled by a public persona that presented a jet-setting lifestyle and socializing with billionaires like Richard Branson and media mogul Ivan Savidis. On December 9th of 2022, Kaili was the first politician to be arrested as part of a corruption scandal colloquially known as Qatargate. It involved allegations that members of the European Parliament had fallen under the influence of the government of Qatar and abused their position of power to become its lobbyists, thus engaging in corruption, money laundering, and organized crime. 44-year-old Kaili's father, Alexandros, was arrested outside his Brussels hotel on December 9th and found to be in possession of a suitcase with hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. Belgian special investigators considered it to be a case of in flagrante delicto, and Kaili's parliamentary immunity was lifted. Over a dozen officers raided her home and several other properties, recovering more than $1.3 million in cash. Kaili was reported as being severely distraught at the time of her arrest, as she cried uncontrollably while in an apparent state of shock and confusion. Kaili's arrest coincided with the 2022 FIFA World Cup, which was held in Qatar. Many within the EU criticized the host country for its poor human rights record, but during a speech in the European Parliament, Kaili praised Qatar's human rights record and criticized accusations of corruption made against it. The criminal case involving the Greek politician was ongoing as of the latest updates, and she was released from pre-trial detention in April of 2023. Kaili's co-defendants, whom included her boyfriend, Francesco Giorgi, Italian former MEP and former chair of the European Parliament Human Rights Subcommittee, Antonio Panzeri, and lobbyist Nicolo Figa Talamanca, were reported to have pleaded guilty to corruption and money laundering. Number 5. Nicole Mitchell. 49-year-old Democratic Minnesota Senator Nicole Mitchell was arrested in the early hours of April the 22nd of 2024 for breaking into her stepmother's Detroit Lakes home. Mitchell told arresting officers that she'd only been interested in acquiring things of a sentimental value, including the ashes of her late father. The politician's stepmother, however, disputed her claims and stated she was afraid of her. Mitchell was charged with felony burglary, an Air Force veteran and a former meteorologist. Mitchell ran as the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party candidate for District 47 in the 2022 Minnesota Senate election and defeated her Republican counter-candidate. In light of the scandal, Republicans in the Minnesota State Senate and even her own party chair called for her resignation. Mitchell, who held a tie-breaking role in the Minnesota Senate, refused to step down. She faced an ethics inquiry on May the 7th, and the following week, Republicans in the Minnesota State Senate introduced a motion to expel her. Mitchell provided her tie-breaking vote and caused the motion to fail, remaining in power in spite of facing felony charges. Number 4. Rod Blagojevich. On December the 9th of 2008, while he was serving his second term as governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, a lawyer and a former state prosecutor, state legislator, and U.S. representative, was arrested. Among other blatant abuses of power, he was accused of using his office to obtain financial benefits, campaign contributions, and to leverage his authority to appoint a United States senator to replace then President-elect Barack Obama. The latter case involved him receiving $1.5 million in campaign contributions and other personal benefits. One of the most heinous crimes of which Blagojevich was accused was pressuring the chief executive of a children's hospital for $25,000 in campaign contributions in exchange for implementing an increase to pediatric reimbursement rates. He also held up the signing of a bill to benefit the state's horse racing industry while seeking to obtain $100,000 in illegal campaign contributions. Blagojevich was questioned by FBI agents in March of 2005 and lied to them by saying that he didn't track or want to know who his financial backers were and how much money was contributed to him. During his first trial in the summer of 2010, Blagojevich was only convicted for his false statements to the FBI, as a jury deadlocked on the other charges. The following spring, he was convicted on 17 additional counts, including 10 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of attempted extortion, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit extortion, 1 count of soliciting bribes, and 2 counts of conspiracy to solicit and accept bribes. It resulted in a sentence of 14 years in federal prison. Robert D. Grant, special agent in charge of the Chicago office of the FBI, described Blagojevich's actions as a comprehensive assault on the public's trust and called the sentence a repayment of the debt that Blagojevich owes to the people of Illinois. Number 3. Sandra Dooley. On April the 22nd of 2024 in New York, Monroe County District Attorney Sandra Dooley was spotted speeding 55 miles per hour in a 35 zone while traveling through Webster. An officer signaled her to stop, but she refused to do so and continued driving towards her home. The cop pulled up to the address, and the ensuing interaction, which took place in the DA's driveway, was caught on body cam. Dooley initially refused to step out of her garage. She called Webster Chief of Police Dennis Kohlmeyer and asked him, "Can you please tell them to leave me alone?" Dooley dismissively told the officer to go away after handing him her cell phone to speak to his superior. The DA then flaunted her position, telling the officer, "I know the law better than you." Dooley emphatically stated, "I am the DA," before presenting her badge to the cop and calling him an a-hole. When asked why she was speeding and explained her refusal to pull over upon being signaled, Dooley replied that she didn't feel like stopping and told the cop to just write her a ticket. But he reminded her that the latter was an offense that warranted an arrest. The cop then poignantly suggested no one was above the law, telling the DA, "What do you want us to do? Not do our jobs because it's you?" Dooley eventually apologized, claiming she'd had a bad day because she'd been dealing with murders in the city. A few days later, she pleaded guilty to her offenses in municipal court, saying, "I believe in accepting responsibility for my actions and had no intention of using my position to receive a benefit." Her behavior in the body cam footage, however, appeared to contradict that statement. Today's topic was requested by Dreadlocks917 and the River Parish. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Tonita Gurel Jairon. In the winter of 2019, the mayor of Las Vegas, New Mexico, was charged with 6 felony bribery and abuse of power counts after she was accused of interfering in city contracts to benefit a construction firm owned by her boyfriend. As part of an official investigation, the homes of Mayor Tonita Gurel Jairon and her paramour, Marvin Salazar, were raided in June. The latter was arrested for felony counts of offering or paying an illegal kickback and making or permitting a false public voucher. As per a criminal complaint, Gurel Jairon had pressured city employees to violate procurement codes by ordering them to award contracts to Salazar's firm, Gemini Construction. The workers often had to remind the mayor that they couldn't just give out contracts without a competitive bidding process, but the mayor used her position to steamroll their objections. While pressuring a public works manager to give her the price of an installation so that her boyfriend could outbid the competition, Gurel Jairon was quoted as saying, "I am the chief operating executive officer of the city, and I was elected to know everything, and I will know everything." Once the projects were awarded to Gemini, the invoices were marked up to amounts well over the company's original bid. Without approval or undergoing a competitive bidding process, a water fountain leak at City Hall resulted in Gemini being given an emergency $10,000 purchase order. In spite of reports that there was no real emergency, the mayor asked for the floors to be replaced, even though there was only water damage to the carpet, resulted in the project costing a staggering $100,000 without undergoing any procurement process or discussion. She also asked the solid waste director to allow Salazar's company to dump trash for free when advised that it would be illegal. Gurel Jairon told the director, "Don't worry about who gets upset. The only toes you need to worry about stepping on are mine. I'm the biggest executive there is." Gurel Jairon resigned in the wake of the scandal. In court, her lawyer tried to argue that the only thing of which she was guilty was being in a bad relationship. In May of 2021, she was convicted on 2 felony charges: violation of ethical principles of service and soliciting or receiving illegal kickbacks. Prosecutors sought a 3-year prison sentence, but given Gurel Jairon's lack of criminal history and non-violent crime, she was given 18 months of probation. She was additionally ordered to write letters of apology to all the employees impacted by her corrupt behavior. Number 1. NYCHA scandal. The date of February the 6th of 2024 was a landmark for the U.S. Department of Justice, as it saw the largest number of federal bribery raps brought in a single day and thus the largest public corruption roundup in the department's history. The charges were part of a case involving 70 past and current workers of the NYCHA, the New York City Housing Authority. The crux of the case was described as classic pay-for-play scheme in which the workers received cash payments from contractors in exchange for NYCHA contracts. They basically used the housing system meant for the city's less fortunate to enrich themselves. During a 10-year period from 2013 to 2023, the accused officials allegedly took more than $2 million in bribes in exchange for $13 million in low-level contracts at over 100 developments. They typically demanded 10 to 20% of the contract value. Dozens of workers were pictured being led away in handcuffs by federal officers, of whom nearly 1,000 were involved in the roundup. 4 employees, Angela Williams, Joseph Fuller, Chrissy Salter, and George Kemp, were additionally charged with counts of conspiracy. 47-year-old Williams was calculated to have earned about $15,000 in bribes. She was also charged with 1 count of destruction of evidence and 1 count of false statement, after it emerged that she'd reset her phone to factory settings in January of 2024 to hide damning conversations. Among the most blatant abusers of power was 45-year-old Herbert Rosa, who was quoted as telling 2 contractors who won contracts at the Lehman houses in East Harlem, "Take care of me, you get work, and if you don't take care of me, you don't get the work." Vernon Chambers from Brooklyn received thousands in cash after telling a contractor, "Take care of me and I'll give you the job." Anthony Mercado similarly addressed a contractor who performed work at the Amsterdam houses on Manhattan's Upper West Side, saying, "If you take care of me, I'll give you another job." In spite of earning nearly $100,000 In 2023, through his salary, residential building super Juan Mercado was responsible for a lion's share of the ill-gotten gains, as documents indicated he solicited and accepted a total of at least approximately $314,300 in bribes. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have the power to turn anything into gold or to control people's minds? Let us know in the comments section below.